Welcome to the Rosepoint Coastal Explorer training video series. This first module is an overview of the user interface, showing you where the various tools and features of the program are. To begin with, the program can operate in two modes. Planning mode, seen here with the taskbar across the top of the screen, or cruise mode. The F12 key toggles between cruise mode and planning mode. So pressing the F12 key now switches from planning to cruise mode. In cruise mode, the program takes over the whole screen. Pressing F12 again switches back to planning mode. Beginning in the upper left-hand corner is the main menu. The main menu is where you deal with voyage plan document files, switch between planning and cruise mode, access the chart portfolio for chart management, configure your vessel's electronics, set program options, deal with licensing and add-ons, and get help and product support. These will all be covered in subsequent modules. Across the top of the screen is the toolbar. The toolbar in planning mode consists of tabs. Each tab opens a browser. Voyage Plan browser contains routes. Marks browser contains marks and things. The browser can be closed using the close button in the upper right hand corner, or simply by clicking the Home tab on the toolbar. Continuing across the top of the screen, there's a GPS icon indicating GPS status. In this case, no green bars means we don't have a valid GPS fix. An announcements icon, which will flash orange when there's a new announcement that hasn't been read yet. Clicking it opens the announcements window. I'll close that with the red X. Next to that is the synchronize button. Clicking the synchronize button opens the synchronizing window, which checks for program updates, chart updates, and guidebook information. When a synchronize operation is in progress, clicking the hide button allows it to continue in the background, and the synchronize icon itself spins to indicate something is going on in the background. And next to that, in the upper right-hand corner, is the search box. The search box can be used to search for places by name. Entering something such as Nia Bay, the program displays a list of things containing Nia Bay, such as tide stations, a waypoint and a route, active captain entry, coast pilot entry, and also things from the built-in gazetteer, which contains millions of place names in North America. Click one of the entries and it takes you to that particular location. So now we're looking at Nia Bay. Along the right side of the screen is the task pane, controlled by the tabs that run down the right side of the screen. The properties pane is displaying the currently selected object, which happens to be the chart we're looking at on the screen right now. Clicking other tabs shows different information, such as clicking the boat tab shows information about the boat icon itself. One of the most commonly used task panes is the instruments task pane. The instruments task pane is extremely configurable, which is covered in a subsequent video, how to configure that. Also, clicking the active task pane tab, in this case instruments, retracts the entire task pane, which gives you more chart panel space. To bring a task pane back, simply click on the pane that's desired, in this case instruments. In the lower left-hand corner of the screen are the chart panel tools. These are tools you might want to use often and just want a button for rather than having to go through a menu. The chart tool provides control over which charts are displayed and how they're displayed. Minus zooms out, plus zooms in. There's also a slider available for larger movements, and the scroll wheel on the mouse can do the same thing, scrolling in or scrolling out. Clicking the Go to Boat button puts the boat back on the screen. So in this case, it's located the chart view back to where we were in Admiralty Inlet. There's a heading orientation button, a screens button, and new marks button, all of which will be covered in later videos. The final piece of this overview of the user interface is how to move the chart around. Currently my pointer is a hand. You'll notice it there in the lower left hand quadrant. It's actually a hand pointing at something. If I click and hold the left mouse button down, that's just click and hold, the hand changes from a pointer to a hand grabbing something, and it's grabbing the chart. And now, as I move the mouse while continuing to hold the mouse button down, the chart moves with it. If I move the mouse up, the chart moves up. If I move the mouse to the left, the chart moves to the left. If I move the mouse to the right, the chart moves to the right. Let go, the hand changes back to a pointing hand, and it stops moving the chart around. If your cursor isn't a hand, right-click on the chart panel and select Pan Tool from the list of selection tools there, Pan Tool. The Pan Tool is the tool we'll use throughout the rest of these videos. The program also contains many keyboard shortcuts, which will be pointed out in each of the subsequent modules. Since getting the boat back on the screen is one of the most important shortcuts to know, there are multiple ways to accomplish this. If I've moved the chart to see where I'm going, perhaps I'm going towards Port Angeles, so I drag the chart way over to Port Angeles and I zoom in to look at Port Angeles because I'm trying to figure out where am I going when I get here. If I want to get the boat back on the screen now, I could manually move it back by clicking and dragging back that way, but that would be a real pain. I could use the Go to Boat button, but since it's such a critical function to get the chart back on the boat, or the boat back on the chart panel, there's a keyboard shortcut for that, the home key on the keyboard. When I'm out of my boat is my home, so typing the home key on the keyboard is the same as clicking the Go to Boat button, and maybe it's a little bit faster, so I'll press the home key now, and it puts the boat back on the screen. If I type the home key again, it puts the program in look-ahead mode, putting more chart in front of the boat. Or there's a third way. Let's say I've moved the chart someplace else. We're heading for Port Townsend, so I want to see what's going on in Port Townsend. I'll zoom in on the marina we're heading for. All of a sudden, somebody else on the boat alerts me to the fact that there's something I need to be aware of, something near the boat. They're not sure which side of this buoy to go around. I need to get the boat back in the middle of the chart panel display ASAP. I could spend a few valuable seconds finding the mouse, figuring out where the cursor is on the screen, and then moving down to that button. Or depending on how familiar you are with your keyboard, you might be able to hit the home key pretty quickly, but there's a really great keyboard shortcut, a really fast way to get the boat back in the middle of the screen, and that is to just hit the space bar 3 times. We call it the reset command. 1, 2, 3 on the space bar. And it takes you back to 1 to 10,000 scale, boat centered on the screen. It's a very quick way to get a view that shows you what's navigationally speaking right around the boat. And the spacebar is the biggest key on the keyboard. Easy to find. Just hit it 3 times and you're back home. You're back on the boat. So that's the tour of the Coastal Explorer user interface.